Welcome to Little Mirrors. I'm Yolanthe,
And I'm Yule.
and this is the second vlog in our series on what it's like being parents in the first month. In our first episode, we discussed what it was like in hospital, and now we're going to get straight into the good stuff, which is bringing a newborn baby home. It's a big deal for anybody. So, Yule, tell us about the first 2 weeks and the things that really stood out to you.
First 2 weeks, daddy cuddles. I have to mention.
Yes.
They're amazing. I think she likes me.
She really likes you.
Everything else pales. But also, I suppose I better mention that the in-home infant support or the local nurses were really helpful. I think those are the main things, and just the kind of and also the help that we get, the kinds of things, the way your life changes, and you know that you need all this extra support because you're trying to do so much that's new to you, and you're trying to keep this little baby alive and figure out what makes them uncomfortable, why they might be crying, and these sorts of things for the first time. So the kind of support that was offered, we took everything that anybody offered, but it also taught us the kinds of support we need and how to ask for the right kind of support for our situation.
So to I guess expand a little on what you said, the first week at home you have a visit, if you choose to have one, from the maternal health centre, and we found that hugely beneficial. They're very warm and like Mother Hubbard-y types. Well, they have been in our case. They came to our house. I guess the purpose of their visit is to make sure that, in general, that the house is safe, the baby's being well cared for, and to assess how that family are. But they also weigh the baby, and they give you hints and tips on new parenthood that is very different to the information received in the hospital. In hospital, the information and support you get is all about best practice. Best practice, as we well know, doesn't always translate wonderfully into reality. And we found that the maternal health nurse was very frank with us. One of the first things that they spoke about and were really upfront on was, they said, did you know that around 85% of parents do co-sleeping? The purpose of their conversation was to let us know that A, we're probably not terrible people if we were to do co-sleeping, but B, that there are safe ways to do co-sleeping, or there are ways that you can mitigate risk in a co-sleeping environment. That was hugely refreshing. We would have got no such pragmatic information about that in hospital, and that was really good. It's still really quality medical information, but it feels a little bit closer to something that a really knowledgeable and well-meaning auntie might tell you about parentcraft. So that was really good. And in terms of when you've got a wee babe and you're at home for those first couple of weeks, I think that it depends on the family, but the sleep deprivation is probably the worst in those couple of weeks. You haven't established a rhythm yet as a family, so you're kind of learning about each other and about everyone's cues, and something's got to give. In our case, that something was cooking. We chose to have meals delivered to our house, and that took a lot of pressure off. It meant that we didn't have to constantly do Uber Eats, although we still did some Uber Eats, but the cooking, even though we both enjoy cooking, it just can't really be a priority at this time, although that's changing slowly but surely. In terms of what I found coming home like, I would say that it was a period of intense transition. I think there's truth in the statement that you can only really understand what it's like if you do it. I usually scoff at those kind of concepts as if this is an exclusive club and only those who have done it can possibly empathise. Usually I think that was junk. I feel like it might be true in the case of parenthood, however, because I knew it would be difficult and I knew it would be hard. But I had on day 5, I had baby blues hit me very hard, and my mood went down very, very fast. And Yul and I have a really good relationship in general, but we're also able to check in on each other's mental health and wellness. And you identified that I didn't seem very well.
Yeah, that's right. So probably the second or third day of being home, maybe third day, you were very teary, and it seemed to me irrational. It didn't seem to make any sense, because you've got this beautiful baby that you've looked forward to for so long, and they're really healthy, and we're going, for me, I was really enjoying the process of coming home, and I was just over the moon, and really, in love with Agla, and feeling a lot of love for you, and just couldn't quite understand why, after having such a joyous experience, or being going through that joyous experience, that you were down. And it seemed pretty obvious that it was probably hormonal, because I know that when you're pregnant you get a lot of like relaxin and all sorts of different feel-good hormones, and that maybe going through withdrawal and that sort of thing would affect your mental state like that. So, and I pointed that out to you, but you were very kind of distraught, and you wasted no time in like firing up your support network to help you out with that.
Yeah, I think that I would want Little Mirrors to be a frank and very useful piece of media for whoever is watching it. So I have no qualms in expressing that last year I had a first bout of depression, and that was very scary, and I had to go on an antidepressant for a period of time. I did go off it, and when I became pregnant I also needed to go back on it, which I felt quite conflicted about, but it was definitely the best thing to do. It's a very low grade, it's the best thing to do. Because for me it struck at the same time as COVID and moving into a new house, just change upon change upon change, and even a really strong person like me can only tolerate so much transition at once. So when I felt those baby blues hit, it felt like that bout of depression, and that really frightened me, because all I've ever wanted in my life is this union with Yul and our baby. So ostensibly, yes, I now had all the things that I wanted, but I felt hugely depressed. I felt very frightened. I felt like I might have done the wrong thing, that I wouldn't be able to take care of my baby properly. I felt all these things that if you poke a little with women, they will often say that they themselves have thought and experienced. They are not facts, they are thoughts that pass. And when you're in a depressed state, or you're like coming off endo and you've had a major surgery, you're sleep deprived, you've got a screaming baby, you're learning to breastfeed, there's a lot of reasons why your mood would drop, and it doesn't mean that you're going to be an incompetent parent at all. But I wanted to move out of that state really swiftly. So I spoke to my psychologist, who had a telehealth conversation with me that day. The next day I spoke to my GP, and we changed the amount of the medication, of the antidepressant, and I felt a great deal of resistance to that. But at the end of the day, if something is preventative and it stops you from dropping deeper, don't know whether what I was experiencing was baby blues or postnatal depression. Frankly, it doesn't matter. It's a health issue that need to be addressed in order for me to be happy and well and feel like me. We just need to get on with it. So I took action on that, and my obstetrician referred me to a wonderful occupational therapist who I have been speaking to once a week for purely issues-based therapy. It's not like the therapy that you do with your psychologist where you talk about family systems. It's purely about questioning the thoughts that your internal voice are making about you as a parent. And I think in terms of the difference between the experience of returning home for Yule and me, it's fair to say that the experience of a mother and a father are going to be very different. There's a physical difference in what we've gone through. So there's just a lot of differences, and it's not practical to compare yourself to the other person. It's not useful to. You're having different experiences. But also, interestingly enough, your baby also relates to the two of you differently. Like, I would say that Aigla sees me currently as an extension of herself because I'm breastfeeding. She seems quite possessive of the body when she breastfeeds. She can become overly aroused when she's on me because she can smell food because I'm a fridge. But when she's put on Yule, she's super chill. That's why the daddy cuddles are so good.
Yeah.
And that makes sense. If Yule also smelled like breast milk, then it would be hard for Aigla to relax as easily. So, biology is quite...
Yeah, there's a reason we don't sleep in the kitchen.
That's right, there's a reason we don't sleep in the kitchen. So it's interesting that in the week after I had Aigla, a couple of people that I know also had babies. And I waited a week or so and I reached out to them and I asked them how they were going. And they responded that they were doing well and how I was. And I was really frank about how wonderful it was, but also how painful and frightening it was. And it gave them both the opportunity to say, oh God, I'm so glad that you said that because I can't stop crying. And my partner is really worried about what's wrong with me because all I've wanted is this baby. So if you're having those emotions, it seems like they're very common emotions. It doesn't mean you need to tell people or be as frank about your experience as I am being with you. But if you dig a little bit, you'll find that this experience is almost universal and there's nothing really to be ashamed of. The intensity of those feelings about transition will pass. Also, a shout out to the occupational therapist. She runs a business. Her name is Ginny, and she runs a business called Mum Ability. She's got a really cute website. She's a solid cognitive behavioural therapist. She's good. So if you're in Melbourne, she does telehealth as well. Just a shout out to Ginny. She's good. I'd say that coming home, those were probably the main hurdles that we got through. But before you know it, with the support from our family and our friends and health professionals, integration began very quickly. And that's actually going to be the topic of our final vlog in the First Month at Home series, which is going to be on both weeks 3 and 4, and the process of integrating and feeling more competent. So first couple of weeks at home are quite lovely and quite difficult. That's normal, and they will pass and things will begin to feel quite normal to you soon. So if you're watching this because that's what's happening to you, hang in there, you'll move through it. I'm Yolanthe.
I'm Yule.
This is Little Mirrors, and we're happy new parents.